Part 102. The Koi Fairy Wife is Sweet as Honey, Love from the Koi Goddess. Author, Su Xiaozhaji. Chapter 1012. Netizens who saw this scene. Is Jinli awake? At this time, he is so bored that he yawns. Jinli is really big-hearted. Doesn't this also prove that she is not nervous at all? My pair looks so pretty when I yawn. Scene upstairs, your beautiful little fairy is already someone else's wife. The host obviously understood very well and asked with a smile, we Jinli are actually yawning. Is it because we are not curious about the results or because we didn't rest last night? Jinli really didn't get a good rest last night. A certain pixie was very clingy and wouldn't let go of her at all. If she wasn't a god and there was no such thing as poor physical strength and the need for sleep, I'd be afraid that she wouldn't even be able to get out of bed this morning. Cough, of course, it is impossible to say this kind of words to the audience. Jinli coughed lightly and said calmly, I'm really not too curious about the outcome, because I know that there will only be one outcome. The host's eyes lit up and he asked, Jinli means that everything he said before is true, right? Jinli glanced at the host and didn't like the woman's hosting style. In order to get the message, he didn't care about the guest's situation at all, and he didn't hide it at all. That's Jinli, there is nothing she can't say. However, Jinli was already sure in her heart, this would definitely be the last time the two parties would cooperate. She nodded, of course, everything I said must be true. The host smiled and said to the netizens in the live broadcast room, did you hear it? Jinli stamped it himself, and what he said is true. We are now seeing the legendary mutton fat white jade floor. Soon, it will be you should go see the cobblestone paths and gem fountains in Dongju. Jinli listened to her quietly. After the host finished speaking, he suddenly turned around and looked at Jinli with a smile. Jinli, there are so many floors in your house, do you mind if I pick out a piece and take it back? Netizens watching the live broadcast were all excited. Host, you said what I always wanted to say. I also want to steal the floor at Jinli's house. I always feel that this statement is a bit inappropriate, right? If you are digging on the floor, take me with you. After living for so many years, I truly realized for the first time that I am not even as good as a piece of floor. In the camera, Jinli tilted her head and glanced at the host. The host smiled and smoothed things over, I'm just kidding, if you don't want to. Jinli interrupted her, I don't want to. The host was stunned. Jinli said with a smile, although Lu Zhenjia and I are both rich, we saved these mutton fat white jade ourselves, and we all like them very much. Don't pick it randomly, you will have to pay for it if it breaks. She said and winked at the camera, you should also put down this dangerous idea, because if it is damaged, you will really have to pay for it. After she said this, she looked at the host again. This time the host continued to smile, but the smile was a bit forced no matter how you looked at it. Ha ha ha, I told you I was joking. I heard that a large piece of this mutton fat white jade with an ordinary color can be worth hundreds of thousands. I can't afford to pay. Jinli turned his head and thought for a moment, then added straightforwardly, nothing I have here is of ordinary quality. Host. Jinli, according to the price in Huiguo, the jade here is much higher than the price you mentioned. See you later. The Koi Fairy Wife is Sweet as Honey, Love from the Koi Goddess. Author, Su Xiaozhaji. Chapter 1013. Host. Being invited by Lu Zhenjia, the host is not a little transparent. Even if the reputation in the circle is consistent, trouble will arise. But this was the first time she met someone like Jinli who was not easy to communicate with. If it were another person, another place, and according to the host's temper, she would just start a fight. After all, no one who can get famous supporters can be said to be sharp-tongued. But the person in front of him was Jinli. The host didn't dare to argue. She lowered her head and saw that the priceless mutton fat white jade floor was still stepping on her feet. Bow to the power of money. The host gave up. Haha, that's it? The topic ends here. The host's expressions were well managed, and Jinli kept smiling, so most of the fans watching the live broadcast didn't notice anything was wrong. When I noticed something was wrong, my attention was immediately attracted by more content in front. In addition to Mr. Embalming's small team, the other two parties also came to their conclusions one after another. The jade is real, and it's good jade. As soon as these words came out, even if the host had been mentally prepared during this period, he was still shocked. Not to mention netizens. Holy shit, the day before I was calling others stupid, but now the facts tell me that it's actually me who is stupid. I finally understand when I called the blogger who broke the news yesterday a fool. Was he also calling me a country bumpkin and ignorant? I admit it, I am really ignorant. I'm sorry, I'm just a layman. I just want to ask, this manor is so big, if all the floors are made of mutton fat white jade, how much will it cost? I also want to know. Forgive me for my poor mathematical knowledge and my inability to calculate. I just checked the price of mutton fat white jade from Baidu. I just want to say, Dad, Lu is awesome. Is Mr. Lu actually so rich? The host looked at the interaction on the barrage, corrected his mentality, and asked Jinli with a smile, Jinli, netizens are now curious about how much the mutton fat white jade is worth according to the method of paving it in the manor. Jinli was stunned for a moment when he heard this. She glanced at the host, looking a little confused. The host waited patiently for her answer. After a while, Jinli shook her head honestly, I haven't considered this. Besides, Lu Zhenjia and I used it to spread on the ground because we liked the mutton fat white jade. For us, there the value is to spread it beautifully on the ground and look pleasing to the eye. That's enough. It's too tacky to measure it with money. Host. Why is there a white light flashing before my eyes? This pretentious light blinded my eyes. It could be seen that not only the host was blinded, but also the hundreds of thousands and nearly 1 million viewers who had been flooding the screen with barrage. After Jinli said these words, they all stopped strangely for a moment. After the silence, there was even more craziness on the screen. Holy shit, 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 the best quote of the year is scheduled, it's too tacky to measure it in terms of money. Kneel down, Dad. Jinli, Dad, do you still need a cleaner in your manor? I used to hate people who pretend to be cool, but now I know that what I can't stand is people who don't have money to pretend to be cool. Until today, I have really seen what it means to be a real rich person. The host tried his best to resist the urge to roll his eyes, turned his head and looked at the 12 experts standing aside. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Koi Fairy Wife is sweet as honey, love from the Koi Goddess. Author, Su Xiaozhaji. Chapter 1014. Jinli can't estimate the value, so let's ask other professionals. How do you estimate the value of the mutton fat white jade floor alone? This time it was still Mr. Embalming who answered. He said in a deep voice, first of all, we are not completely sure yet. All the floors in this manor are made of the same quality as the suet fat white jade we have seen, so this is tentatively a hypothesis. If this premise comes true, just the floor of this manor. His tone paused. The host looked at him expectantly. Netizens watching the live broadcast are also waiting for the old man's answer. Mr. Embalming pondered for a long time, and finally just shook his head slowly and uttered 4 words, it's immeasurable. Host. Netizens. The host asked, can't you give a rough number? Mr. N said in a deep voice, such a large area of mutton fat white jade, and from my observation, many of them are paved with very large pieces of jade. Such large pieces of jade are already priceless in themselves. If you insist on it, in terms of estimation, I can only say priceless. He turned to look at Jinli and sighed, in fact, before I saw it with my own eyes, I couldn't imagine that someone would do this or that someone could do this. It's incredible. This in itself can be called the last miracle. Jin Lixin said, isn't this a miracle for you humans? If it weren't for the little fairy and Pixiu, who could come up with so much high-quality mutton fat white jade to pave the floor. She smiled crookedly at the old gentleman, thank you, Mr. Embalming. He glared at Jinli angrily, I'm not complimenting you. Jinli smiled and said, it's okay, I just think you are complimenting me. Mr. Embalming. The confusion on the floor was temporarily resolved, and everyone started heading towards the lawn and fountain in front. This time, everyone's steps were a bit slow. The photographer and host were unconscious and wanted to feel more about how they felt when they stepped on a large piece of priceless treasure. Mr. N and his group of experts wanted to feel again whether the road they were walking on at this moment was of the same quality. Although the host has a somewhat unpleasant personality, his professional skills are still excellent. He never forgets to read and interact with netizens' comments while walking. As she walked, she did not forget to ask a question for the audience. Netizens are very curious, is the road we are walking now also filled with mutton fat white jade? No one had gone far ahead. A large area was a square, and now this area was a spacious road in the manor. At this moment, many people were still unwilling and couldn't believe that Jinli really dared to pave the entire floor with jade. Forget about the square, this is a main road. It's a trivial matter to be stepped on by all kinds of people, and you may have to drive back and forth when you go out. Aren't you afraid of being crushed? If you crush any point, you will waste money. When the host asked the question, they all listened attentively to the answer. The person who answered this question was still Mr. Embalming. He sighed, and the answer he spoke seemed to be beyond people's imagination, but it was indeed within everyone's expectations. From just now to now, the road we have walked and under our feet are all real mutton fat white jade. Say good night quietly. The koi fairy wife is sweet as honey, love from the koi goddess. Author, Sushao Zhaji. Chapter 1015. Suddenly, the comment area exploded. What made me shed tears of poverty? Of course it's because of poverty. I am curious about one thing now, since the suet fat white jade floor is real, does that mean that the Dongju trail is also real? Is the diamond fountain real too? Idiots don't know mutton fat white jade, nor do they know Dongju, so hurry up and go see the fountain. The host also felt a little dizzy at the moment. She glanced at Jinli with envy and said sincerely, Mr. Lu is so kind to you. It was mentioned in the news before that this manor was built by Lu Zhenjia for Jinli at a huge cost and took 3 years to build. How deep of love is it to build such a manor for one person? Jinli accepted these words without any burden, he is indeed very good to me. When she said this, her eyes were bright and her smile was sweeter than honey. Everyone can see her pride and satisfaction. I got it for real. Moi Jinli's smile makes me die, it's so beautiful. Dad Lu is so lucky to be able to marry a little fairy, right? I originally thought I was just watching a live broadcast to show off my wealth, but I was stuffed with dog food, which really made me nervous. It's good to marry into a wealthy family. No one else would dare to think about such a manner in their lifetime. The one with pancreatic acid in the front, remind me, it's Dad Lu who has been lovingly chasing our Jinli. Jinli doesn't watch the barrage. Only the host will keep watching the barrage and then put forward some interesting words or questions that the audience asks more. For example, at this time, she asked, I just saw Mr. Lu in the lobby. The audience asked why he wasn't with us. Jinli said, he's working in the study. After returning to the human world and taking over the Lu family again, Lu Zhenjia was not as diligent as before. Especially after marrying Jinli, he would stay at home to handle company documents and hold video conferences with the management unless it was important. He is now Pixiu, who has recovered all his abilities. He can know all Lu's movements with just a thought. Moreover, he could see through Lu's future at a glance. Cheat by relying on your strength, and spend the rest of the time with Naupo, perfect. When the host heard Jinli's answer, it was related to Lu Zhenji's work. She was quite sensible and didn't ask any more questions. She just complimented, I just got married not long ago, and I haven't even started my honeymoon yet, and I have already started working. Mr. Lu is really model worker. Actually, it's not bad, Jinli said with a smile. With me, every day is a honeymoon for him. Host. Her face stiffened for a moment. Is there anyone who praises himself so openly and shows affection? Ha 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 ha, Jinli, you really are an upright person who will never collapse. You are the little fairy I like. You are right, even if you disappear for 3 years, even if you are married and a woman, you are still the familiar you. The expression of the supporter is my expression at this moment. At this moment, I angrily kicked over the bowl of dog food in front of me. A passerby said, isn't such a straightforward show of affection without any connotation just to prove something? As far as I know, all lovers who have a good relationship are never so showy generally, only those with unstable status and lack of confidence, you know. The koi fairy wife is sweet as honey, love from the koi goddess. Author, Sushao Zhaji. Chapter 1016. The passerby who didn't know if he was a real passerby was quickly criticized by other fans for doubting his life. Here, people who have experienced this tell you, never talk about experience in front of Jinli. If you can say this, if it is not Hiza, then it must be a real passerby. My sister tells you away, go search for Jinli and Dad Lu, make up for the lessons first, and then come back to talk. Unstable status? No confidence. Ha ha ha, if these two adjectives can be applied to Jinli, then lovers all over the world will no longer feel safe. What's going on today? Are all the Yalai fans celebrating the festival? Are they all so gentle? To deal with a black man who alludes to the relationship between Jinli and Lu's father, do we still need to educate people about true feelings? The passerby quickly disappeared from the comments. The audience ignored him. Because during the live broadcast, a group of people had already arrived at another place. Because the audience all wanted to see the gems in the fountain came first. When the camera zooms in, you can see the clear water in the pool and the densely packed beautiful stones under the water. Wow, there are so many. I'm not saying whether it's true or not, it's really beautiful when shown like this. When the camera moves, under the sunlight, it's sparkling and dreamy, buling. In such a large pond, if it is paved at such a density, there must be thousands of them at least, right? Before the live broadcast, I always felt that whoever believed the rumors like yesterday was stupid, but now, the mutton fat white jade floor has been hammered, so what does it mean to throw thousands of gems into the pool for fun? Can such a large fountain and such a density really be filled with thousands of gems? Shut up upstairs, this kind of math problem is not something that poor people like us can calculate. From now on, Jinli's expression in my mind has changed from little fairy to dad. Beside the pool, the housekeeper has thoughtfully prepared a net bag that can be freely adjusted in length. You can just use a net bag to pick it up for identification, the steward said. More than a dozen experts looked at each other and stood up to get their net bags. The host stood by the pool, looking at the large area of sparkling waves, and couldn't help but feel a little excited. There's no woman who doesn't love sparkling jewelry, and she is certainly no exception. Moreover, if it were not for Jinli, she would never encounter the game of fishing for gems once in her life. The host was shamefully tempted. Not only was she tempted, she was even ready to take action. Jinli, she looked at Jinli with expectation in her eyes. Can I try to catch it too? What he said this time was much truer. I have never tried anything like this. Okay, we need a net bag over there, Jinli said very generously. Go ahead. The host bent down and carefully picked up the net bag. She looked into the pool, originally wanting to choose the one she liked better, but unfortunately, the dense stones were piled together, and the light reflected each other, and she couldn't even see the color clearly. Then you can only choose randomly. The host closed his eyes, took a deep breath, used his hands to sink the net bag into the water, and fished it out. The weight in his hand was unexpectedly heavy. The host did not expect that all his expressions in this short period of time would be recorded by the photographer. The audience started ha 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 again. I originally thought this host was a bit artificial, but now I think it's okay. See you there. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Koi Fairy Wife is Sweet as Honey, Love from the Koi Goddess. Author, Su Xiaozhaji. Chapter 1017. I couldn't help but pretend to be myself. If it were me, I would probably have the same expression. Really, when I saw her swallowing her saliva with her eyes closed, I felt that it was me, because when I watched them fishing for gems, I had the same reaction. The female host couldn't see the audience's reaction at the moment. Of course, even if she could see it, she probably wouldn't be in the mood to see their reactions. At this moment, her whole body was focused on the fine mesh bag in front of her. No matter how finely the net bag is woven, the water has already been filtered out when it is lifted up, leaving only dripping water in the net bag. What is left is a large handful of beautiful stones that sparkle with moving luster. Red, green, blue, transparent colors. Stacked together in one place, they are almost too beautiful to behold. The female host squatted down while holding up her skirt, not even caring that the hem of her long skirt fell to the ground. In fact, the audience thought that it was no harm to her if it fell to the ground. After all, it is a mutton fat white jade floor. If it were them, they would just feel like they were getting rich if they rolled around for a while. The host stretched out his hand, carefully picked up two of them, and placed them in his palm. These two are not large by the standards of stones. Thumb size. But what if it is this size and is a gem? The host felt his heartbeat and breathing quicken. She took her palms in and put them in front of her eyes. Facing the sun, blinking, looking at the blue gem. Beautiful, as clear as a quiet lake, with no trace of impurities visible. Even her breath was sucked into it. She has been in the industry for so many years and has accumulated a lot of assets, including several gemstones and jewelry. But when it came to appraisal, she felt that she was not qualified enough. The host can only be sure that this beautiful stone is more beautiful than all the gems he owns. She carefully and reluctantly glanced at the palm of her hand, put the things in her hand back, then stood up and looked at Jinli. Jinli, do you think these gems are all real? Jinli looked at her outside and said, my answer was already revealed yesterday. But you don't seem to believe what I said. Now, let's wait for these experts to say it. By the time Lu Zhenjie finished the work at hand, sensed Jinli's location and walked over to find her, it was already an hour later. When he walked to the scene, he saw people squatting on the long path with shocked and confused expressions. Of course, all these people together only got Pai Xiu's father's eyes for half a second. He quickly focused on Jinli. What's wrong with these people? Are they scared? He walked up to Jinli, naturally reached out and took one of her hands, and asked affectionately. Jinli approached him and whispered, I've told you several times that they also detected it themselves. It's hard for them to accept the reality. Human beings are always so easily shocked, and their psychological quality is not very good. Lu Zhenjie thought in his heart. He wasn't surprised at all. The experts were still in collective confusion, but the host responded with his professionalism. Of course, the reason why she was able to react so quickly was partly because, for the host, this Dongji trail was far less shocking than the gem fountain at Buling. Hello, Mr. Lu. The host looked at Lu Zhenjie with a strong desire for knowledge, Now the audience is particularly interested in knowing, what kind of thoughts do you have in building such a dream manor for Jinli? See you later. The Koi Fairy Wife is Sweet as Honey, Love from the Koi Goddess. Author, Su Xiaozhaji. Chapter 1018. Lu Zhenjie was a little surprised by this question. He was not surprised that the host would suddenly ask him a question, but the content of the question. He sounded a little confused. Do I need any more reason to build a manor for Jinli? Host. Sure enough, they are a couple. The chats all have the same style, making people unable to continue. She smiled and continued forcefully, well, for a manor that costs so much money and effort, Mr. Lu must have a deep love for Jinli. Lu Zhenjie's indifferent face showed an expression of course, my feelings for Jinli are clear as time goes by. But you are wrong about one thing. Host. Lu Zhenjie said calmly, to me, this manor is far from the level of spending huge sums of money. Host. I now believe you two are husband and wife. You two are exactly the same. How can you die if you speak well and don't show off? We are jealous of our real name. Before her expression collapsed, she managed her expression forcefully, causing her expression to look ferocious for a moment. Haha, she smiled, that's it? At this time, the expert group squatting on the ground also got up. The old man embalming, who looked angry at first, saw Lu Zhenjie at a glance. To be fair, Lu Zhenjie's aura was quite intimidating, to the extent that ordinary people wouldn't dare to talk to him when they met him. But at this moment, the old gentleman was on fire, and he exploded as soon as he saw him. He walked straight to Lu Zhenjie, pointed at him and asked, are you that Lu Zhenjie? The owner who organized the construction of this manor? Lu Zhenjie glanced at him, it's me, what's wrong? You're still asking me what's wrong, Mr. N got angry when he talked about this old man, so, you are the one who used suet white jade to pave the floor and forcibly changed Dongji's appearance to pave the way, a waste of natural resources. This old gentleman has been gentle and refined throughout his life, cultivating his moral character and cultivating his moral integrity. He has almost never gotten angry with anyone. Idiot is already the most vicious and harsh word in his life dictionary. To be able to push him to this level, you can imagine how angry the old gentleman was. Lu Zhenjie. The momentum around him sank in an instant, and he looked at Mr. N coldly. Very few people, and no one has scolded him like this for a long time. The host standing aside couldn't bear this feeling and subconsciously took a step back. Lu Zhenjie said coldly, I can use my own things however I want. I am happy and Jinli is happy. Even if we throw it into the water and play with it, it is our own business. What does it have to do with you? What does it have to do with you? It can be said to be quite provocative. Mr. N was so angry that he took a deep breath for 2 seconds before saying, your things have nothing to do with me. But don't you think it's a waste to take something less valuable from such a high-quality treasure? Lu Zhenjie glanced at him. He saw that the old man in front of him had no bad intentions. It was easy to indulge in various researches all his life, so he was willing to say a few more words to him. What is waste? He shook his head. For me, the value of something that makes me and Jinli happy is its value. He pointed downward and then forward, and said, pile in the collection room, they are just a pile of glowing dead objects. I may not take a look at them for many years. Isn't this a waste? And now, they are at my feet and beside me. Jinli and I feel happy just looking at them. This is called realizing value, old gentleman. Compare your feelings. Good night. The Koi Fairy Wife is Sweet as Honey, Love from the Koi Goddess. Author, Su Xiaozhaji. Chapter 1019. Mr. N was so blocked that he was speechless for a moment. He is an old intellectual obsessed with interests and research. He is a good hand at writing papers, but he is really inexperienced in talking. Therefore, when Lu Zhenjie said this, he could only gasp, stare, point at Lu Genja and repeat, "You are wasting everything." Lu Genja. Such poor words made him feel that he was bullying the old man by continuing to chat with the other party. So he just turned his head indifferently. "I asked you to come here today just to do an appraisal and give a result to the netizens who doubted it. There is no need for you, old gentleman, to question my values. Mr. N." He glared at Lu Genja angrily, then turned to Jinli, who was standing aside listening to their chat. Your husband is fooling around, and you are watching him fool around. Jinli. What's wrong with me? I just stood here eating melon without saying anything. Why do you still want to see me? Jinli felt a little aggrieved and confused. She looked at Mr. N innocently. The old gentleman pointed at her. "It's in vain. I saw your paintings were so clever and thought you were good. I didn't expect you to be so useless. Let him ruin a good thing." Oh haha. There is something wrong in this sentence. Painting. What painting? What did I miss? Am I the only one who thinks this old man is meddling a little too much? It is really none of his business how he wants to use and spend his own things and his own money. On the contrary, I think the old man's personality is a bit cute. I can see that he is not a bad person, just a bit stubborn. This jade professional dog will explain. I understand Mr. N's mood very well. Seeing the floor of Jinli's house, I wanted to go back in time and grab Jinli and Lu's father's heads and shake them hard. If you put such a top quality thing on the ground and step on it, your brains will be full of water. Jinli blinked and looked at Mr. N. She didn't understand why the other party was so excited. She said naturally, "But, we have a lot of these things. After using these, there are still many more. I don't think they are so precious." Mr. N. Feeling like he was going to die, he turned his head and refused to communicate with Jinli. Audiences. I'm so pitiful about this old man. Jinli can't grasp the key points today either. Ha 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 ha, really, it's so miserable. What's the key? The key is that Jinli still looks confused. I don't care what the point is, nor the mental activities of the old gentleman and Jinli. All I can think about is Jinli's words. We have a lot of these things, and there are still many more after using these. With me with them to me, and I am jealous. I am jealous too. I want to know if this manor is hiring. I can. I am willing to give up my salary. I just want to feel the joy of working in such a treasure trove. Kyokyo Jinli, look at me. Want to work? Add 1. Jinli tilted her head, looked at the camera, and said, "Since the appraisal is over, let's turn off the live broadcast." She smiled at the camera. Thank you everyone for watching. Goodbye. Audiences. No, we haven't had enough yet. Unfortunately, the next second, the screen paused. The live broadcast has ended. The audience held their breath and were still a little unable to react. When they reacted, they felt that they were full of words and complaints and wanted to vent them out. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Koi Fairy Wife is sweet as honey, love from the Koi Goddess. Author, Su Xiaozhaji. Chapter 1020. So, when Jinli prepared a sumptuous thank you banquet for the experts, the internet exploded because of the live broadcast. The overwhelming news was all about the Jinli family's estate. The eyes of all kinds of big shots who are good at picking up inside information and news are almost blind, and they can't find any movement about this manor. Logically speaking, such a large manor, a project that lasted for several years, should not have such a situation. But the fact is that no one can pick up any news. Then the marketing accounts of all parties can only publicize this matter from another angle. Bao Jinli's mansion with inestimable value. How rich are the wealthy people in Huaguo? Is it a wealthy family or an upstart? Suet white jade paving the floor, gemstones filling the fountain, take you to reveal the history of the top rich Lu family. Netizens thought more. Is Jinli stupid? Besides showing off her wealth like this, what good is there for her? Isn't this setting Lu's house on fire? I also feel that a certain inspection team is going to Lu's house today. Heh, it really is a starlet who can't make it to the stage. How could it be possible for the Lu family to collect so much money in a serious business? Sure enough, the old saying is true, marry a wife and marry a virtuous man. Tisk, marrying a wife with a bad brain, I am afraid that hundreds of years of ancestral family business will be wiped out. Lu Genja usually looks so shrewd, but she really misleads others with her beauty. What's wrong with this? A group of sailors. I watched the live broadcast, and everything Lu's father himself admitted was true. Since he dared to admit it directly, it meant that there must be no problem with these things. Those sailors dancing in front, you all think your brains are better than the brains of a man who controls a huge business empire, don't you? That is, watching the calm appearance of Jinli and Lu's father in the live broadcast, people don't worry at all, okay. Although, I will open a small account to explain that my family is also very rich. When it comes to Huaguo, people who are rich will think of my family. Our family really can't afford so many Suet white jade and Dongja. Do you really know how much it would cost to cover such a large manor with Suet white jade? This matter is either a bureau set up by the Lu family to brag, or the Lu family has already ascended, and there is a wall between us and other families in Huaguo. Which family did you speak earlier? You can be remembered when you mention it, Zhao. Money. Plum. In fact, if ordinary netizens are just eating melons, then other families that used to be partners or competitors with the Lu family are full of doubts and disbelief. Because ordinary netizens are far away from their level, they cannot imagine their lifestyles, nor can they understand their wealth. But they still know a lot about each other. It is precisely because of understanding that I feel that this live broadcast is too incredible. Let alone whether some things can be collected so much. Even if they can, the Lu family is so rich. We have been competing together for so many years, how come they don't know? Many people don't believe it. Not to mention that other people don't believe it. Lu Qingyuan, who is from the Lu family, always has a look on his face when he sees the news. Hashtag I don't know when my family was so rich series. Hashtag. He didn't know Lu Genja's identity, but his mother Lu Jianzhen did. When he saw the news, Lu Jianzhen sighed deeply. See you tonight. The Koi fairy wife is sweet as honey, love from the Koi goddess. Author, Sushao Zhaji. Chapter 1021. She is quite clear about the situation of the Lu family and roughly how much money they have. Because I knew it well, I knew that this manor had nothing to do with the Lu family at all. Even, she knows more. For example, there was no such thing as spending 3 years secretly building a dream manor for Jinli. During those 3 years, Lu Genja and Jinli didn't even know where they went. After such a long time, Lu Jianzhen had already adapted to the identities of Lu Genja and Jinli, and when she saw them come back, she was really happy. But these two people are too high profile, right? It doesn't matter if you want to decorate your manor with gems, gold, and beautiful jade. But can you secretly hold the show by yourself, and you have to start a live broadcast? In just a short while, she has already received calls from many old friends. Those who have a good relationship with her, those who have a normal relationship, and those who add business to each other, inquire about Lu Genja's manor openly and secretly, just want to pry some inside information from her. But although Lu Jianzhen is an artist who doesn't like chores, after living for so many years, what else can he do? She blocked it back 4 or 2 times, and finally she couldn't help but call Lu Genja. Seer, she called. Although he knew that his younger brother's identity was far more than his own younger brother, Lu Jianzhen was still used to calling him Sier. Lu Genja had more than 20 years of human memory, and he didn't like it when he first recovered all his memories. After a long time, he got used to being yelled at several times, and he endured it. Sister, he responded, what's the matter? Is it because of the one on the internet? Lu Jianzhen rolled his eyes in an inelegant way, so you know it yourself, you are so happy, do you know how troublesome it will be later? Lu Zhenjie frowned, there will be no trouble. Lu Jianzhen, what? Lu Zhenjie said calmly, you mean those comments on the internet, and some people said that it affects the Lu family, right? You can rest assured that with me around, the Lu family won't have any problems. In the past few years, Lu Jianzhen has also heard a little bit from Lu Qinghua's mouth, things that ordinary people don't know, for example, an organization, the God Supervision Bureau, that she doesn't know the name but is related to mysterious forces. And according to Lu Qinghua, Lu Zhenjie's identity is well known in the hearts of some people in Huiguo. Hearing what Lu Zhenjie said, she felt a little relieved. But what should be said still has to be said, no matter what, you'd better be careful yourself, don't be so floating. Lu Zhenjie said got it? After hanging up the phone, he thought about it seriously and thought, where am I going? Worry blindly. So they are indeed a young couple. At some point, Lu's father and Jinli did not only agree in love, but even thought on the same level. Asterisk. After the live broadcast ended, for several days on the internet, apart from hashtag LuZhenjie hashtag, the most popular was hashtag LuZhenjie hashtag. All in all, it was them both. A new movie by a popular niche was released, and the company spent a lot of money to buy the #1 trending movie, and it went up at that time. In less than 10 minutes, he was abruptly overwhelmed by the natural topicality of this matter. Xiao Sheng. If you spend money, of course you can't be cowardly. His company called there directly, and the other party replied, the heat is too high, and you can only suppress it for a while. Otherwise, we will refund you some money, and you can just buy a second one. Xiao Sheng. Why is it so difficult for me? See you later.